What the Tech is sponsored by Hover.com. Domain names made simple. Go to gfq.hover.com and get 10% off your entire purchase. And by Stitcher Radio. Listen on the go via the Stitcher mobile app. For more information, go to stitcher.com/GFQ. Welcome, everybody, to another Chest Hair Tuesday here at the GFQ Network. I'm Andrew Zarin. I'm joined by Mr. Chest Hair himself, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
I'm doing well. I feel like I should be doing this.
It seems like that is the focus of the show, not the technology talk.
Right.
Just our beautiful chest hair that we put on display every Tuesday for the show.
Our spectacular plumage.
It's 4 p.m. on a Tuesday. What else are you going to do? You're going to stare at my chest hair because I refuse to button my buttons.
Because it's also like 100 degrees outside. Right?
Oh, man. It's brutal. And the studio here, one of the issues that we have is air conditioning because we can't run an air conditioner while we're doing the show. Mm-hmm. So the studio literally gets up to about 100 degrees.
Yeah.
Currently, I'm at 85.8, and I just turned the air conditioner off. So by the end of the show, I'll be at 100.
So you should be drinking one of those giant Chinese food drinks, with the huge straws.
Yeah. Well, I'm drinking. I actually have beer in this mug right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I have iced coffee and water today.
I'm going to need it for this Nexus 7 review that we're going to do live on the air.
So mine has not arrived, but the one thing, I don't know if you've seen this, there's a funny collection of clips of all of the reviews that have been done of this thing where people do the live unboxing.
Yeah.
And apparently no one can get it out of the box.
I opened this up, and I'll do it again on the air because I closed it all up to make it look like I never touched it. But
yeah.
I opened the thing up, and I was like, oh, these people are idiots. They can't open this box. And I literally dropped the box with the Nexus in my hand.
Right.
And I'm like, damn, Google.
Yeah. Yep.
Every aspect of this device is going to be difficult. The UI, the experience, and the actual unboxing.
So I can't remember if we had this conversation, but do you have or have you used a Kindle Fire?
Yeah, I have one.
And what do you think of that? Is this the one you don't like it, do you?
I don't like it. No. When I got it, I got what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
I understood. I understood it's not an iPad. I understood that it's never going to be an iPad, and it's going to cater to this 7-inch tablet market. Mm-hmm. But after using it for a couple months now, almost a year, I have to tell you, if that is the experience that we're going to get with these 7-inch Android-based tablets, it's not a good experience.
Well, okay. So the reason I asked that is last night, my wife was out, so I was watching a movie, and I had a bunch of devices sitting in front of me, as we probably all do at night, like idiots. And I was doing this on purpose just to kind of bring things, update them as needed and so forth. Some of them my kids are using, and I don't really pay attention to them, but. I noticed I'm very used to the Kindle Fire because it's what I've been using, but my daughter uses a Samsung Galaxy Tab 7.0 Plus or something along that nature, and probably very similar from a form factor perspective to this coming Nexus tablet, right? 7-inch thin, kind of a beveled edge and all that stuff. And of course, it has the little Samsung weirdnesses in it and some of the little proprietary UI stuff. But I got to say, it's funny. Depending on what you do, it's not that hard moving back and forth between them because the Kindle app on the Samsung is like using the entire Kindle Fire, right? It's that UI, that kind of bookshelf-looking UI, and you could put the Amazon App Store is on there, and I overrode some of the old Google apps to put the Amazon versions on, and I was updating the apps, and I was just kind of looking at it, and I thought this is very familiar, both of them, even though they're completely different, and so I'm curious, now that the Nexus is out, when I get this thing, of course, it will be loaded up with Google Play, and I'm kind of used to that as well. I'm just curious if it's going to be too different or similar enough that it will just be fine.
Well, what I ended up doing with the Kindle Fire is there was an application in the Amazon App Store at the time that allowed you to remove all the the Kindle-ness of this device and have it as a bare-bone Android device. And I ran it that way, and the experience was a lot better for me.
I remember that. You actually got the regular desktop looking.
Yeah, I mean, it was fine. They removed it from the App Store. You can't find it anymore. But It cleaned it up, and it was a lot faster. I feel the problem is Go Launcher EX. There you go. Thank you. Paul's chest hair in our chat room says Go Launcher EX.
So I'm sorry. I should probably look that up.
Go Launcher EX. I don't think you can find it anymore in the App Store. I think it's removed.
Yeah, I'm sure. The other thing is, that the one thing I noticed again, this is not the first time I've noticed this, but I don't really go and do this stuff a lot, is that on the Kindle Fire, there are apps that are built into it that you can't remove. You kind of press and hold on it, and usually it will say remove from device or whatever the choices are. And the ones that they supply, which includes some bizarre third-party choices. I mean, they're not Amazon apps. They're just like these.
Like a weird player, like a Kyocera player. I forgot the name was.
Yeah, there's like a gallery app for photos and videos, which doesn't appear to work with any videos or photos. There, maybe a Facebook app, I think, is part of it. There's an email app, like the awful Android email app. I think the Gmail app is in there. And it's like this stuff, from given how little memory is on this device and that I'm never going to use it for these things, it seems like it'd be kind of cool if I could free up the space. So when I want to rent a movie or something, I could squeeze in more than one of them, or whatever. But
so
anyway,
I got it here. I got the Nexus right here.
Let's look at it.
Let's open this up. So let's see if I'm going to fumble around. So here it is. Nice packaging. Google did a great job. The first thing is that this was very difficult to remove at first.
That's what I heard.
So now it's the trap door where this thing does not come out. I've cut the tape out, and this is when I drop the entire thing. So let's see if I'll do it again.
It's so tight.
It's so tight here.
So
there we go.
On a user experience scale from Microsoft Bob to Apple, where would you place this?
Microsoft Bob to an Apple, I would place.
Oh, I'm seeing an ad.
Oh, you're seeing an ad? Yeah, see. Hopefully we're going to be ad free in a couple weeks.
The volume.
You can't turn it on the ad?
Yeah. Hold on.
We're going to be ad free in a couple weeks. So I'll hold it up for the viewers. I like the fact that the back is rubbery, because one of the things that I hate is that most of the time if I have a cover for this thing, it'll it bulks it up.
Is the Kindle Fire near you?
It's not. I don't know where it is, to be honest.
Because it'd be interesting to compare these. So the Kindle Fire also has kind of a grippy back.
I could go get the Kindle Fire if you want.
But of course, it's not hugely important. But that thing obviously has tapered edges.
Yeah, so it looks a lot thinner.
So it looks thinner. And how does it feel weight-wise?
Really good.
Yeah.
It's the perfect weight. I wouldn't have wanted it any lighter or heavier. I think it's a perfect weight for this thing.
Interesting.
So Android you get loaded up with the book.
Yeah. And that's the new, now they call it Jelly Bean, but that's what's the 4.0 thing called?
Butter.
No. I mean, that little styled logging in, it's like on the phone. What do you call that? What's the name of that system?
I don't know.
No, the version of Android. I mean, Android 4.0.
4.1.
4.1.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys could see it. So you have your music. So if I want to play music, it's really fast, I have to tell you. So I could just, go to
So those like custom desktop widgets for the various play apps?
Yeah. So you have your magazine. You have, I don't know what this is. It's another album.
The magazines thing, by the way, was slower than crap when I tried it on my daughter's tablet. Now, how is it on there?
So let's see. Play magazine. Oh, yeah, really fast.
Well, you got to go into one. So, load a magazine up.
So, Popular Science, right?
Yeah, whatever. And then just kind of flip from page to page after it loads in about 20 minutes.
It was really... Why is it loading?
Very slow.
Okay.
It may... I wonder... Well, there it goes.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
Yes, it's not... You see how it's kind of...
Oh, you know what? It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's not. The pinch and zoom has been really...
I always prefer for periodicals to do it in that text view for the most part. Not this zoom in and out of each column kind of thing that you can do. That's kind of cool until you get tired of it. But yeah, okay.
I'm trying to fix the...
Are those software buttons on the bottom? They must be, right? Those are not.
Well, those are the Android soft keys.
Yeah.
So, the magazine's not bad. Let's see what else we have here. I started playing some games in here, and this has been my biggest complaint with the marketplace. They have recommended tablet apps, right? Yeah. And when you download them, they had a couple of games. They had a tower defense game. And when you download the game, it's not made for the tablet. It's just upscaled.
Ugh.
But they claim that it's a tablet, and you don't know. I don't know which apps are tablet apps or standard Android apps.
It's funny because the two big differentiators between this and whatever the next Kindle Fire is called, right? Because they're going to come out with one that's thinner and lighter and all that stuff, is going to be the quality of the content store, but also it's that kind of thing. Amazon does a decent job of making sure that the apps that are in their app store are tailored for the device, and I'm sure there are exceptions to that. I'm not an app expert, but it seems like, that curation that they're doing is kind of an advantage. And so it kind of blows that they actually have something like that is explicitly designed for the tablet, but it's sort of really just designed for like a tablet, not necessarily that.
The display is really nice, I'll tell you that. They did a good job with the display on here. If I can go to the camera, there you go. Display looks good. I'm just trying to see what else. It's Android, and it out of all the Android tablets that I've ever used, this is the best Android tablet.
Yeah,
and it's really closing the gap, in my opinion, when it comes to the iPad. Mm-hmm. This is the closest that they've ever been.
Right.
So let's say they're 85%. But
85% at $200.
At $200.
That's the other thing. So. Obviously there's going to be a set of people who look at this and say, look, I get it. It's nice, but it's not the same size as the iPad. I would be surprised if Christmas came and went and they didn't already have an iPad-sized tablet. But
yeah, I mean, they're going to have a 10-inch of this. They're going to have to. So let me see. Let me open up Chrome. Let me go to... Oh, one of the things that they really fixed was the way that the typing works.
Yep.
Much, much better experience. I mean, it actually feels to the level of an iPad.
And if you rotate that screen around so you're looking at it landscape, how quick is that? Because that's another thing that can sometimes be kind of slow.
Not very quick.
or just non-existent.
Yeah, it's not doing it. I mean...
I wonder if it's locked.
Let me see if I can find an app here that'll do it. Let me go to a website that I know will work other than mine. Engadget. There we go. The browser's not that fast.
Yeah.
It takes a while to load, and I'm on a pretty fast network, but it is not rotating. That's not good.
Well, that might just be a limitation of that one app.
I guess. I mean, this is a Chrome app.
Yeah. It seems like it would
work.
Yeah,
so here's the thing. Certain applications are optimized for their pinch and zoom.
Mm-hmm.
Some are not. They don't do a good job at the pinch and zoom. I'm surprised how bad the Chrome application is with pinch and zoom. Not very responsive. I don't know, Paul. I like it. I think this is a great step forward. I'll definitely use this more. There's a rotate enable button. Yeah, but where is that? Why isn't it enabled? It is enabled.
Yeah. It must just be a limitation of the app.
It is enabled. It's not rotating. I mean, I know it's not going to rotate here, but it should rotate in Chrome. See, this is the thing. Why would you need the app there? Why would you need to enable it? It is enabled.
Right. Well, sometimes you want to disable it, right? So I do that on the Kindle Fire. I set it to whatever orientation I have it.
Yeah, it's enabled.
And, you don't want it to start rotating on you when you don't mean it to.
Try it again.
If you're reading or whatever.
No. Huh. Maybe I should reset this.
It's got to be the app. Got to be the app. Does the home screen stuff rotate, or is that always stuck in portrait mode?
Hold on. It's disabled. I mean, the rotate app is on. Let me do it again. Okay, let me see now. Okay, now it works. So I guess it was locked up. The music app, I think Google Music is a great experience. They make it really easy if you have everything synced. The artwork looks great on there. I like it, but it's still not at the level of the iPad, in my opinion. And I don't necessarily think it's the operating system. I think it's the app experience that is still so far behind anything happening on the iOS.
Well, it's a matter of maturity at this point,
Yeah, but you're talking about a year and a half ahead, That's the thing. There are some great apps there, but I think the App Store is still so unorganized where you don't know what you're getting. I think their recommendations are bad. I think the games are bad. It's not a it's almost like quantity over quality, you know, in that app store.
It's not almost like that. It probably is literally that. Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty good. I haven't played around with the settings yet. I think their notification system that they have now is much better than it used to be. I haven't tried the camera that they have on here.
That's something I'm not going to care about.
But interesting how they put a front-facing camera, not a rear-facing camera.
Well, anyone who walks around with a tablet and takes photos should be smacked in the head with that tablet. I think this is for, chatting, right? For video chat.
Have we seen any of the apparel come out? Like a some sort of mount for this thing?
Did you call it apparel?
Apparel?
Like accessories?
Like accessories?
I have not seen anything like that. But let me look. I mean, they must have a case or something. I don't know. Do they? I don't know. They probably sell this stuff at Amazon.
But yeah, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, so there's a cover, a dark gray cover. That's it. And
That's
then
it.
a charger. Yeah, you can buy it.
Listen, pretty good tablet. I'll tell you that. I haven't used it enough for me to really say I don't like it or I really like it. But if this is, from what I've seen, I think this is a great direction for Android as far as a tablet goes. But when you make a bigger device, let's say they put out a 10-inch device, you're getting high. The pricing is going up. So now you're still in that $499 price range. Is it worth it at $499?
No, it wouldn't be. But what if it was $299 or $349?
At what, like a 10-inch at $299? Yeah, 100% it's worth it. If this is the exact device that they put out,
but at 10 inches, yeah.
But at 10 inches at $299, yeah. It's a good device. But for $499, no.
No, right.
You know, the other argument is now, more and more of these rumors are coming out that iPad is going to be Apple's releasing an iPad Mini.
Yep.
And
this is you can go back to the first iPad. So the first thing I wrote was like, this thing's neat. They need a 7-inch version.
See, I don't want a 7-inch version of it.
Well,
but I'm not. I like the 10-inch tablets. See,
I get why people use 10-inch tablets instead of a computer. Some people. But for me personally, I look at that device. For me, it's a movie player. It's something I bring on trips, and the more portable it is. Obviously, there's a line where it's too big. There's a line where it's too small. You could watch movies on an iPod Touch or on your phone, but the screen's a little too small. I think the smallest acceptable size for that kind of thing is going to be like that Galaxy Tab, or what do you call it, the Galaxy Note that you have. Maybe it was a 5-inch screen, something like that. But 7 inches, right in there is ideal for that kind of thing. You're not going to, I would never use this to type memos or emails or, stuff like that. I mean, this is just, it's for content. It's for reading books. It's for listening to music while you're reading books, maybe. It's for watching movies that you rent for a trip. It's literally just a consumption device.
Now, you're getting yours probably today, right? End of today.
Yeah, it is coming today.
Are you going to be writing a review on your site?
I'm not sure. I think I'll write something. I mean, I'm not sure if it's a full review. I'm obviously not going to give this thing the attention that I would give, a Microsoft product. I'm sort of wrestling that with Mountain Lion too. That what I'm probably going to do for that OS is compare it to the stuff that's in Windows 7 that's similar. So I think for this, it's a little weird because we don't have any Windows tablets that are 7 inches, let alone Windows tablets. Period. So I mean, obviously I can and probably will compare it to the Amazon Kindle Fire, but. I'll write something about it. I'm obviously not the go-to guy for Android tablet reviews.
Well, let me ask you this, Paul. Let's say the iPad comes out. I think the iPad, they said it's going to be 1 point. What do they say? It's going to be a 7.89 inch screen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
If this device comes out at a $299 price range, what happens to the Android market, the Android device? At that $199 to $299 7-inch market,
they're in trouble.
They're in big trouble.
Yeah, Apple makes good stuff, and that's a problem for these guys. I mean, this thing at this price is decent. It's interesting. I think this thing and the Kindle Fire, as they are now, are decent for this price. They're inexpensive. They're basically like an ebook reader that you will occasionally do other things on.
Yeah.
Whereas an iPad is obviously this full function multi-purpose device where one of the 200 things you can do is read ebooks if you want. It's not the primary activity.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that at this end of the market, you're coming at it from a different place. I mean, I think an iPad mini, if it were real, is really just an alternative to an iPod Touch. It's a big screen iPod Touch. It's something that people will primarily use for games and to watch movies and to, another place where they can get all their Apple ecosystem stuff. Not necessarily because they're going to dock it with a keyboard and write stuff on it, which people are trying to do on an iPad. It kind of sits in the middle. So I think there's room for all this stuff. But yeah, I mean, if there was an Apple version of this thing that was $300,
it would dominate the entire market. I mean,
yeah, it would.
You would have those people buying it just because they don't want to buy Apple. But I don't. I know people have their reasons why they're going to buy an Android device, but let's consider the average person. You put an iPad next to this device, I think they're going to pick an iPad.
Yeah, sure.
For that price.
Right. Because this thing needs to mature more from a software and services standpoint.
I think we touched on it last week how the tablet market is really not that 10-inch, iPad. It's more along the lines of the 7-inch, Android tablet that's out on the market now. That is the tablet market. The market that everybody's fighting for is for the 7-inch market, not the 10-inch market, because that's going to be between Apple and Microsoft at this point with their devices.
Right. It's unclear if Microsoft will ever own a big piece of this market, this 7-inch market, right? I think the Microsoft entry here, aside from a couple of, niche-y kind of side players from, Taiwan or someplace, is going to be maybe a Nook tablet, right? That is to Barnes & Noble what this thing is to Google, which is to, what the Kindle Fire is to Amazon.
And you think it's going to run
RT,
or it's going to run RT on there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, then that would be, then they're entering that market. It's getting, it's almost confusing because who's competing with who at this point? I don't think Google's competing with Apple. I think the only way that they're competing is if they're taking some sort of market share from there. But the people going and buying iPads, I don't think they're going to pick this up and say, well, I'm going to get this instead right now. Or they might be. I mean, maybe they will.
Fantastic McDonald's ad right now, by the way.
I know. What feed are you watching?
It's Ustream.
Yeah. Ustream has the ads. Justin TV doesn't.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny. Sometimes it just cuts out.
Yeah. Listen, it's out of my control, guys. That they put those ads. So I don't know. I like it so far. I'm gonna play around with it some more this week, and I'm gonna do a whole big review of it. But I like it. I don't think it's this iPad killer. I don't think that was ever the point, though. This is a Kindle Fire killer. And it is 100%.
It was to take back the Android tablet market from Amazon, right? Because they were kind of on a tipping point, I think, where the only tablet that was selling really well on the Android side was not really an Android tablet. I mean, obviously it is Android, but I don't think people were associating it with Android, which is a problem for Google because that's obviously the brand they're trying to push. So
yeah, but I think
solid.
It's much better than the Kindle, and I would prefer an Android experience over the Kindle experience.
Well, you see, but it depends on what's important to you. In other words, I didn't buy a Kindle Fire because it's an Amazon device. I bought it because it's a Kindle, and for whatever it's worth, I pay for Amazon Prime. I get access to their streaming service for free. That's on there. That's kind of nice. The Kindle Fire, I could be wrong, but I believe is the only Android type device where you can do Amazon's TV show and movie purchasing and the movie rentals. It has Audibles on there. Not that you can't get Audible anywhere else as well, but it's the Amazon experience. And to me that's more for me personally that's more important. But now that Google is doing a much better thing with Play and really maturing those services, they got magazines now. Obviously, this is their attempt to kind of end run around Amazon. It's smart, and I think a lot of people will like it. It has a kind of a clean look to it,
Yeah, no SD slot. Obviously, they're cutting costs on this thing. No rear-facing camera, but as far as a 7-inch tablet goes, this is the one to get. Plus, you get a $25 credit to the store.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool because I've been downloading a bunch of apps that I normally wouldn't have bought.
Yeah, see, I would use that for movie rentals and stuff, and that kind of pays for itself because when you get a device like this, you would do that stuff. You would spend some kind of money just in the course of sort of reviewing it or checking it out, and that's essentially a $25 coupon. I mean, that's
not bad at all.
Yeah.
I want to go and talk about Office 2013.
Okay.
Yesterday was a big announcement. Paul, what do you think of it so far? I know you've been using it for a little bit, and I want your opinion because I just installed it on one of my machines here, and I was playing around with it. The reviews that I saw were very mixed. Some people saying, "Wow, it looks great. It's that Metro look to it," and other people hated the look.
Yeah.
And this is one thing I don't understand. I never looked at Office and said, "Wow, this is a phenomenal UI." I love the ribbons. I never looked at it as, "Wow, this is an elegant piece of software."
This is so hard to even explain because there's so much going on here. I mean, obviously, there's a suite, which is what you're talking about, the applications that you install on Windows. There are the services, Office 365, Office Web App, the online versions of Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync. There's on-premises servers. There's different ways to install the stuff. There are different combinations, SkyDrive Pro. I mean, there's all this stuff, and there's stuff we don't know about yet. There's mobile apps coming. We saw one of the Windows 8 apps for OneNote, and there's one coming for Lync, but there are going to be apps for all of the major mobile platforms, iOS, Android, everything. I mean, so a lot going on. And I like the new UI on Office 2013 specifically a lot. And it's one of those things when you first see it, which I did months and months ago. I mean, I was writing about Office, this version of Office back in probably February or March. Mm-hmm. The initial reaction is like, wow, this is really white. It's bright. It's stark looking. It takes a little while to get used to, but you start to prefer it. I mean, I remember going back to Office 2010 for a little while and thinking, okay. And there's a weird kind of Metro style thing where Microsoft talks about how the UI gets out of the way and all that stuff, and they're really kind of living it in Office 2013. I mean, they really do a good job with it. It also adapts, and this is something they didn't have in the technical preview, but it adapts to the device. So if it detects certain screen sizes and capabilities like touch, it will automatically expand the size of the on-screen elements so you can touch them more easily. And it will hide the ribbon by default. It does all that kind of stuff. I think that stuff's smart. It's a little smarter than Windows, actually.
Yeah.
To be honest. I mean, if you think about it, and of course Microsoft does this on purpose, but Windows 8 should have been designed in such a way that it would auto-detect. Look, you have a desktop computer with a 27-inch screen. We're going to go right to the desktop. You're never going to look at Metro.
Yeah.
And they don't do that for very obvious reasons. But I think Office does a better job of adapting like that. So,
no,
I
thought it looks great. You have all this, the functions of Office. I'm talking about the actual desktop software.
Yeah.
I haven't played around with 365 or.
So how did you install it? Did you actually download a single file and install it that way?
I went to your website. I went to winsupersite.com.
Yep.
And I looked at your review, and then I just clicked on the download link.
Okay. So that way of doing it is the way it's always been done, and obviously that works fine.
It installed Java.
What?
It asked me to install Java on my on Firefox.
That I don't understand.
Yeah. And I had to install Java so it could use their player, like their downloader.
Okay, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's weird, but I've not seen that. But the more interesting thing that's going on is they have what's called a click to run capability, which is a way to stream an Office install over the internet, and it literally takes from start to completion 90 seconds, and then you could run your apps. And they're installed in a virtualization kind of a bubble on your PC, so they're also segregated from your PC, which is nice from a sort of a security standpoint, and also an ability to run these things side by side with previous versions of Office. And then you can stream the ones later that you don't have, or there's all these different capabilities. You can install it on up to 5 computers, not just 1 or 2, depending on which version.
Is it going to be like that on all of them? Or is it just
It's going to be like that on the services versions.
Okay.
I don't know the ones they're going to sell at retail. We'll see. Probably not. I mean, obviously what they want to do is get people to go with the subscription. And if they price it right, this is going to be the single greatest deal in technology ever.
I mean, because Office is generally a very expensive piece of software.
Right.
The Office suite.
Imagine, in fact, no, don't imagine. Let's just do it for real. Like, so we'll go to MicrosoftStore.com right now, right? And what would it cost? Like, I want to buy Office, and I want to buy real Office, not Office Home and Student, like, or whatever they call that, but like an actual version of Office, right? So, Home and Business 2010 maybe would be the first kind of real version of Office, right? So today, if you want to buy this thing for one computer, it's $200. It's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Outlook, right?
Which version is this?
This is called Home and Business.
Okay.
It is $279 if you want to install it on two computers, right? So, for less than $100, you get the additional install. So imagine if Office 365 Home Premium, as I think it's called, imagine that thing was, actually, let's just say $10 a month, right? Just to make it a little more expensive than I'm hoping it will be, but let's say it's $10 a month. So you're talking $120 a year, right? And so after 2 years, you will have spent $240 on it, still less than the cost of Home and Business for two computers. But during that 2-year period, you're able to install that software on any 5 computers that you have. So obviously people are going to be installing it on their wives' computers and their kids' computers and all that kind of stuff, but whatever.
I mean, for years they they always said you could put on one, but you were always able to do it, put on multiple machines. The last version of Office,
sort of. There was the licensing for many versions of Office was always that you could install it on a second computer, and it was supposed to be a portable computer. And this is kind of an old-fashioned thing. That the theory would be that you would install it on a work computer, but sometimes you might want to bring a computer home and you wanted to get work done, and they had that.
But the last version, 2010, you couldn't do it if you were on the same network. It wouldn't allow you to run it.
I think that was just them adhering to what was always the case.
I guess that's what it was. But if you want to buy professional, let's say for whatever reason you need to have publisher and access,
right?
You're paying $350 for this thing.
Yeah, $350 for one computer.
For one computer,
or $500 for up to 2. Now, that version of the suite adds publisher and access, right? Which something a lot of people don't need, but if you needed that kind of stuff, fine. On Office 365 Home Premium, off the top of my head, it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Outlook, and Publisher. Not Access, but it is Publisher. You can install it on 5 computers. Now, you are paying every month, right? And we don't know how much that's going to be, so it's kind of a...
Are there any guesses on how much it'll cost every month?
I think if you look at the way that Office 365 is priced today, what you will find is that the lowest end version of the suite is $6 per user per month. So there's no way that Microsoft is going to have a consumer-oriented subscription that's going to cost $30 a month, right? It's going to be, I'm thinking $10.
You think $10 a month?
I'm hoping 5.
Oh, man, if that's the case, I mean, this is going to be, you're absolutely right. This is one of the greatest things they've ever done.
Absolute no-brainer. And by the way, it's way more than what I just described, right? I've told you, about the Office part of it, but the thing to remember is that Office 365 Home Premium is not just about getting multiple copies of Office that you subscribe to. You also get, of course, all the future updates and upgrades. And so if Office 2015 comes out down the line, you get that for, not for free. I mean, you're paying for it, but you get it automatically. You have that it's access to installing it not just on PCs but on Macs. There's going to be a version of Office 2013 for the Mac. It's not available in the public preview, but by the time the final version ships, there will be one. So if you have 2 Macs and 3 PCs, you can install it like that. You can't buy a version of Office.
And see, that's been the biggest problem because we have I have like two or 3 different copies of Office.
Yeah.
I don't have one for the Mac. Because I didn't this wasn't my my business device at the time.
Right.
I just had a Mac laptop. But now I always regretted not getting a copy for the Mac because you have it for Windows. You can't install it on the Mac.
Right.
So now that's going to be out the window.
That's gone.
Yeah.
So the other thing you get is 20 gigabytes of additional storage on SkyDrive, right? Now, the way SkyDrive works today is that if you sign up fresh today for the first time, you get 7 gigs of free storage. If you were on SkyDrive for a long time, and like I was, you get grandfathered into 25 gigs of storage. But whatever, if you were going to buy 20 gigabytes of additional storage, Microsoft right now is charging $10 a year for that amount of storage, and so that's the value of that addition. You get it's kind of strange. You get 60 minutes of credit on Skype every month as part of the subscription. So you're also getting that. So if you use Skype a lot to make international phone calls, You get that. And you also get this capability that's not very well understood called Office on Demand.
Okay.
And that is that as part of your subscription, let's say I visited your house and you handed me a computer so I could use that while I was there. I wanted to grab one of my documents or whatever it was, but you didn't have Office on your computer. I could log into Office 365. I could stream that application to the computer, use it while I was sitting there, and then it would disappear on its own. It's not actually installed on the computer. It's streaming to the computer. It requires an internet connection, obviously.
Okay.
And so there's stuff like that. I mean, there's, and then we don't know how they're going to deliver these yet, but there are the Windows 8 apps and there are those mobile apps that I was talking about. I have a theory, by the way, that I do know from my sources that Microsoft is working on Office applications for the iPad and for the iPhone and for Android.
Okay.
Right. One of the theories about this though is, how are they going to, obviously they must be holding off on that because they want people to buy Windows RT. Because if people know that Office is coming for the iPad, that would remove the last blocker and they would just use the iPad. So how do you get people to keep paying you, right? You make it part of Office 365. You make Office 365 the only way to get it. And so if you want to use Office on the iPad, that would be one of those 5 installs. This is just a theory, by the way. This is not.
So let's say you would get 5 installs. So you put it on the Mac.
You have one on the Mac,
one on the laptop, one on the
iPad.
desktop, one on the iPad.
Yep.
So
now you're not doing is spending $10 or $20 or $30 in the Apple store, the App Store. You're not spending anything. You're spending it as part of your subscription. You're paying Microsoft, and so now Microsoft gets this money from you, even though you're using an iPad, because now you're staying within the Microsoft ecosystem, even on the iPad, right? And so we know there are the apps on Windows 8. They've announced those, OneNote and Link. We know that with Windows Phone 8, you get Word, PowerPoint, OneNote, Excel, obviously the email stuff as well, and Link, actually. We know that there are going to be versions for, actually they haven't announced it, but, iOS, iPad, iPhone, and Android as well. And so that kind of represents everything right there, right? This is like Office everywhere, literally. And then, of course, they have Office on the web as well.
How is the UI going to change from device to device? Are you going to have a different experience on the Mac version from the Windows version?
Yeah, so I've never seen the Mac version. I suspect it's interesting. If you know Mac Office, you know that there are actually a couple little touches in Office 2013 that appeared on the Mac version first, right? So
I always thought the Mac version looked a little better.
Yeah, so the start experience that you see in Office 2013 looks to me a lot like what's been in the Mac for a little while, which is you start the app and you get this kind of grid of templates and you can choose, what you want. It's kind of design oriented. So I think it makes sense for Microsoft to make the Mac version look as much like the Windows version as I can, because because I think it looks good and I think it's efficient and so forth, but also for the mobile app versions to be very similar. So if you go and you take a look at the OneNote app for Windows 8, and if you've seen the OneNote app for the iPad and for the other mobile platforms, you know that there's they all kind of use the user interface bits that make sense on those platforms, and I think that might be a guide for how Microsoft might do the same for other, for other Office apps.
I'm just Googling to see if there's any more leaks. Apparently there was something with Windows Phone 8, right?
Well, like a leak?
Yeah.
No, not really.
No, okay. I'm just going down the RSS. I just saw it.
That's nothing.
Here's the thing.
It's based on an image that's on a Microsoft blog. It's no different than what's available today.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's where I stand with this. Up until now, I think we've been used to buying software a certain way.
Yes.
With Microsoft especially. I think it's a very traditional, old school way to buy software. You buy the software, you pop the CD in, you install it. They finally went to downloading it online, but it was still 32-bit version was different than the 64-bit version. Everything was still very separated. If they're going to go to some sort of subscription model for this, could you see them going for a subscription model with Windows as well? Because last week we were talking about, how are they going to update these? How are they going to do these updates? Because your theory is, which I also agree with you on this, they're going to have to do these small upgrades every year, much like how Apple's doing it.
Make it a subscription.
Where
that's the holy grail.
Every 3 months you get this major update. It would normally cost you $10, but it costs you, you're paying it.
I mean, it's really funny. I don't know. I mean, before I saw this stuff, I knew that Microsoft had been trying to push Office as a subscription service for years and years. It's never worked. But this version, they've done something that it's inverted everything, right? And so I'm going to crib this from the article I'm writing now, but I just think it's kind of laid out nicely, which is it's an Office 365 subscription, which we have today. They're aimed at businesses. That is aimed not at businesses, but it's aimed at consumers. That's weird.
Yeah.
It's a version of Microsoft's oldest software suite, not delivered in a box or on a disk or even electronically as a single ISO or a MSI file, but as a service, right, from the cloud. It can be installed on up to 5 computers, not 1 or 2, right? I mean, it's like
so
they've
opposite,
taken everything they did and they've like twisted it around in some, it's like bizarro world.
Why do you think they're doing this? Whose guidance is this?
Well, the why of it is maybe going to be explained in sort of a Monday morning quarterback sense, where you look at it now and in other words, I would not have come up with what they did.
Yeah.
But now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, again, assuming that this thing is 5, 10, something in that ballpark, this is genius, because this has turned the ludicrous, the notion of I'm going to pay for Office every month for the rest of my life, into the obvious, that this is an awesome idea. And so I guess the question we should be asking, because I've actually not asked myself this question, but it's a good one, which you just asked, which is, how do they do this to Windows? And
they're
does
going
it
to
make
have
sense
to. They're going to have to do it. No, I think they're going to have to.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you why they're going to have to, because they've already broken the model where people are expected to pay $200 for a version of Windows at this point, right? Pretty much everybody gets a very inexpensive version of Windows. If you have Windows existing copy of Windows, you get it at this very discounted rate, which that's what Apple's been doing for a while. This is the deal.
In other words, they said, look, this version of Windows is going to be, everyone qualifies for the upgrade, right? That's the first thing they said. It's amazing, right? They've gotten rid of the whole full product licensing baloney, which I've been arguing for my entire adult life. So good. $40, right? So $40, the upgrade is $40. $40 is a nice price to pay once a year. $40 is something interesting, because if you think about a year from now, after Windows 8 has been out for a year, and they want to get you to upgrade from Windows 8 to Windows 8.1 or whatever they're going to call this thing, $40, right? Plus, the situation we have today also applies, because you're talking about Windows 8. So by definition, everyone qualifies for this upgrade. Everyone does, just like they do today. There's no change.
So you think they might go to like this $40 a year type model, where every year give them $40 and you upgrade?
I'm responding to your question.
Yeah. Is that realistic?
We're kind of freestyling here. I'm just having not considered this, but kind of
thinking out loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
But last week when we brought this theory up, the other issue was that it's gonna almost dilute the market, where 20% of people are going to be on 8.1, 10% of people are going to be on 8.2, 40% are going to be on version 8.
Yeah, but so I guess the other part of this would be, maybe from the perspective of Windows, it's too important, and they say, well, you know what, we're not going to charge for this, and we're going to make sure that everyone who has Windows 8, gets this new stuff. And maybe that the way to do it is, listen, if you have to experience this, just promise me at some point in the next months or so that you will sign up for one of these Office 365 subscriptions and witness how fast that this thing blows Office on your computer. It is the most astonishing thing I've ever seen.
So I installed it. I have it installed.
No, but you have to do it through Office 365.
I have to go through Office. Okay.
Because when you do that, from the moment that you say install the software to the moment that you can actually run Word or Excel or whatever, it's 90 seconds. And so think about that for a second. What if this was applied to Windows, that technology? What if the difference between Windows 8 and Windows 8 plus 1 or Windows 8 plus 2 was not like a full blow OS install or even an upgrade, but rather the addition of additional software code via this same kind of click-to-run technology, where you go to run some new app that requires this, and it says, hey, you need this new update. Or they don't even have to tell you, because it will happen so fast, you'll just get it.
Yeah.
We're just guessing, because we really don't know, beyond the fact that I've been told by multiple sources inside of Microsoft that they are doing something very different for upgrades of Windows, and we're going to handle upgrading Windows 8 very differently. then everything and will speed up that development process somehow. I just don't have the details.
So the other question is, why not bundle Windows and Office together in one version?
Yeah. So
actually, for $80 you get it all.
Right. Actually, they're doing that.
Okay.
So allow me to announce on behalf of Microsoft that,
okay.
Windows 8 and Office will be bundled together. But the bundle is one that actually has kind of existed forever. I mean, this is just people don't hear about this stuff, but Windows and Office are bundled together for PC makers and for system builders. And so one of the things that Microsoft is going to be doing is making it very inexpensive for people to acquire the new versions of both of these things on new computers. Now, it's really no different, than things have been in the past. But, it's funny when you think about that, because that version of Office is like Office for one computer, right? I mean, it's fine. It works. But I think really what you're shooting for here is you want, as the person running the software, is like you don't want Office on your computer, right? I mean, on a computer. You want Office. I think one of the things that's awesome about this 365 stuff is that for most people, unless you're, a crazy person with like 8 computers or something, just subscribing to Office 365 doesn't give you Office on a computer. It gives you Office.
Yeah.
You have Office over here. You have Office over here. You've got Office on this device. You've got Office over here on this device. You know what I'm saying? It's changing the value proposition. It's hard to put a dollar figure on it because we've just never thought about it this way. It's the way it should be. Ultimately.
Yeah, it's a very different way of thinking, and it's a very different way of Microsoft operating, especially with these services. These are Windows and Office are the two, top, very expensive pieces of software that people use. But I'm wondering, this is also a way to kind of defeat piracy.
It makes piracy irrelevant in a way,
Yeah.
This applies the whole concept of cloud computing to software, right? To venerable, classic, heavy monolithic desktop software. That Windows also is tied to a computer. Maybe under the subscription that you're talking about, you just have a Windows subscription, Windows 365, and now you have Windows wherever you want it. And that as part of this, you qualify for these free upgrades to the next version of Windows on your Intel desktop computer, on your Windows RT tablet, on your Windows Phone, whatever device. Maybe I'm making this up completely, by the way, but I'm just trying to imagine how they can apply the theory of this. I mean, remember, when we talk about cloud computing for data, for cloud backup, not backup, but cloud sync, something like SkyDrive or Dropbox. The notion is that this data should be centrally located, but available everywhere. Apply that to software like Office or Windows. You pay for this thing. It should be available wherever you are. In other words, the software is not tied to a device, which is dumb. Just like your data should not be tied to one hard drive on one computer.
No,
that could fail and you lose.
I've never understood why they've. I kind of understand why they've done that, but that's a very old school way of doing things. The software should never be tied to one device.
We don't know if they're doing it with Windows, but I think it's fair to guess they're going to move in that direction because of what they're doing here with Office.
But everybody really knows that you could install Windows on more than one, machine.
Okay, but everyone also knows that the reality is when you buy a product key for Windows, which is all you're really getting, you're really just gaining the right to apply that product key on one computer.
Yeah,
that's what it is. When they had that Windows 7 Family Pack, right, which is just a bizarre little name for something that's no more than a disk and 3 numbers in a box. What you're really buying are the 3 product keys. Each one of those goes to a computer. I'm sure half the people that bought that wrote in pencil next to each product key, I installed this one on this computer. I installed this one on this computer. It's kind of a stupid thing to make people do.
And they took, and you know what was interesting? It was very limited. They took it off the market.
Yeah, they only had it on, for limited time.
And when I went to go get it, when Windows 8 came out, nobody knew what it was. The stores had no idea about it. They had like 1 or 2 copies just sitting there of that version. I actually
bought it at a Staples in New York City because I was there for the launch.
I bought it at Staples also. That's funny.
And it was a complete non-event, but it was a good deal for what it was. But the market is changing, and I think as we move forward into time and people expect this, they have expectations about everything, frankly.
But is it the app mentality that kind of changed the way that desktop applications function?
It's a little turned around. I think that what we now think of as cloud computing is ultimately, which is the thing that is the heart of this, which is with cloud computing, the typical storage scenario is your stuff is one place, you can get it from anywhere. Apple applied that model to apps where they said, look, when you buy an app, you're not buying an app for that iPad, because Apple has every expectation. It's funny how they did this, because their deal was, we want you to keep buying machines. And we know that if you tie all your apps to that one machine, you don't get locked into Apple. You get locked into the iPad 1.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that those apps are freely licensable across. They're attached to your iTunes account. They go with you, not with the device. And that is actually a monumental change too. I don't mean to not give them credit for that, because that's a big deal. Typical software makers are going kicking and screaming. I think we're seeing the start of it on Microsoft here. There are other companies like Adobe who make very expensive software, and they don't want this model because this really impacts what they do. Although I would make the argument for Adobe that you should look at what Microsoft is doing with Office 365 here and say, maybe we should be doing the same thing.
With Photoshop and
Yes, because in other words, if you would subscribe to the CS suite, I don't know what they're called, web designer suite or whatever, and would get free upgrades, and that thing might cost $100 a month or some crazy fee, but for the people who use that software,
it's better than spending whatever that they're doing, and they're not getting upgrades.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting time, especially for software, and the way that we perceive software as being, I buy this and that's it, and next year hopefully I end up buying another one.
That way of doing things is out of date. And
I mean, could you imagine if that's what they did with apps? I mean, I know they have it with certain applications, but let's say the Facebook app was $1. And they released the next version with all the bug fixes a year later.
You paid $1 every single time you bought a new Apple device or a device of any kind, or reinstalled the OS, and it's like, well, this is not the same device, even though it is really, which is one of the silly things that happens with Windows. And so, I mean, obviously the trick, that's not really a trick. Microsoft is moving to a what they're now calling a Microsoft account, the Windows Live ID, which they've had forever, but now that's the central clearinghouse for this stuff. In other words, when you talk about tying software to you, what you're really talking about is tying essentially what is essentially a product key to the Microsoft account. Right now, people will share these things, of course, but the reality is people share computers today too. I mean, I think the Microsoft account approach is the same that Apple does with their their iTunes IDs or whatever they call them.
No, you're absolutely right.
Same thing. You're tying it to that ID.
So we are almost at the end of the show, Paul.
We've talked about one thing.
Two things. Two things. Well, that's the point. We go into detail about these things and we express our opinions.
I'm excited about the Office stuff. It's new.
Yeah.
And, I've been dying to talk about it. But
have you been using Outlook with it?
Yeah.
What do you think of Outlook?
I've never been a fan of Outlook, but actually, and one of the things that's interesting about all of Office 2013 is that these legacy UIs will come out to the front from time to time. And if you're familiar with Outlook, I would say Outlook is perhaps the worst offender in that way. Although if you do use Outlook, you probably don't care. And so the account creation stuff and some of the dialogues you'll see in there are very much like Outlook has always been. But they do a pretty good job of turning a very complex app that does many, many different things into a single screen experience. It has inline replies and so forth. A nice looking calendar. They've done a nice job with the presentation. It doesn't look like previous versions of Outlook again until you kind of get into it. But all the basically all the capabilities are there, conversation view and so forth. The one thing I really don't like about it, and I don't mean to say this is why I won't use it, but this is one of the big reasons why I won't use it. Unless I'm completely missing something, I don't see a linked inbox view. I don't see a way to aggregate all of my unread mail into one place, right? Mm-hmm. Which is something that is also a problem with the mail app in Windows 8. They fixed that in Windows Phone 7.5. Obviously, the iPhone, iPad have that capability. They call it different things, but it's what you want is to be able to configure multiple accounts and have everything appear in one place, commingled together, because that's I mean, optionally, some people might not want that, but that's what I want. I don't want to go to inbox here and inbox. Oh, now I have an email over here. I want it all in one view. And
I was a big Outlook user for many years, but I mean, in all reality, and I was one of the people that said, well, I really don't want to use a web-based client. So I was so used to Outlook. In reality, Gmail does a hell of a job.
No, I get the same.
And when you're on the cloud and the fact that all your mail's there, I mean, up until now, I know that you could, synchronizing is a little better now, but.
So by the way, actually, to be fair to Outlook is now an EIS client.
Yeah.
So it works just like your phone does. It's actually, it's just a front end to that data. And you can do it the old school way. You can have your little PST file and keep all your stuff locally like, a nerd. But
keep backing it up.
Yeah, have fun with that. But
every time you format.
Yeah. No, I've blown away PST files doing that, and I remember in the early days, Outlook was like the Star Trek movies. Like every other one of them was really good, and then every other one was really terrible.
Outlook 97, you had a 2 gig PST limit on the file.
And if I'm not mistaken, did not support internet email. And so you had, it was like I don't remember the versions.
Do you know what happened if your PST file got bigger than 2 gigs?
I assume it just stopped working.
Outlook just stopped working.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally exploded. So what you had to do, you had to download a tool from Microsoft that split the PST file.
Ah, yes.
So now you have to split the PST and split it and split it and split it until you got Outlook working.
Yeah, so it's some Microsoft show in roughly 1996 or 1997. Someone got up on a stage somewhere and said, oh, and by the way, the PST file for the next version of Outlook will now support up to 64 something, whatever the size. And then everyone cheered, rather than saying, actually, the way we designed this program is horribly, broken. But they've done a good job. That's the one, Outlook is one of those things. I prefer using web-based email clients. I still find it to be more familiar. I like going back and using those. I fully expect that web-based stuff to change pretty dramatically, by the way, in the months ahead, too, because, Microsoft is moving all of their stuff to this kind of Metro design. So, of course, the Hotmail is going to look like the Mail app does in Windows 8, I would imagine.
Which it should. I think it should.
Of course it should. That kind of familial, look and feel. But, Outlook is it's kind of like that dashboard that people use for their daily lives, right? It's everything in one place. And, they've integrated stuff in there that wasn't, was previously like an add-in kind of thing. And, as big and complex as it is, I think they've done a pretty decent job.
I agree with you 100%. It is at the end of the show, so we are going to play the 10-year game. Okay. This week, this was submitted by a viewer. They asked what we think search will be like. What do you think search will be like in 10 years? As in web search.
Right.
Is it going to evolve? Is it going to change? Where was it 10 years ago? And where will it be in 10 years? Well, 10 years ago, I think it was fairly the same. 2002.
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously not as sophisticated, but the act was the same.
The act was the same, yeah. I mean, you're talking about Google, really becoming dominant around that time. They really started getting aggressive at that time. And
were we using Alta Vista in 2002? I bet we were.
What were we using? No, you know what? I think we were using Google.
Let's see. How would I do this? By 2002, that's possible. Yeah,
I think that's when it just started taking off, and everybody went over to Google. But in 10 years, where will it be? I think it's going to be, search is changing, especially on mobile devices. You're realizing, with Siri and other services like that, where you don't have to necessarily go and search anymore. It does it for you.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
So I mean, the whole concept behind, who's going to be the number one search provider, it's going to be whoever could get those services to use them as a search function.
I think search is basically just going to permeate everything. And the notion of going to some search page is going to be gone. The notion of going to a browser window and even typing a query into an address bar, whatever we do now, is going to be gone. I mean, I just think it's everywhere, and you can see the starts of it today. I mean, the Xbox 360 has a Bing search built into the dashboard. People talking into their phones, obviously. Google has this. They don't get as much credit as Apple does, but they have it. Microsoft has it too. Microsoft Windows Phone today, you can launch apps with your voice. Something you cannot do in Siri, although they're adding that. I just think it becomes pervasive to everything. I mean, it becomes like Star Trek. I think you're going to be able to basically talk to anything. You know, the way we're going to interact with everything is going to be through some combination of sensors that will become very common in homes. It'll be one of those things people build in, and new construction will have it, that will not just detect that someone is there, but that it is a certain person. And it will just be, you know, it will just be automatic.
Yeah, the basic function of, you know, let's say trying to find a recipe. You know,
Yep.
you want to make a cheesecake. You're not going to go to google.com and make a cheesecake. You're gonna ask your phone, or you're gonna ask whatever device you're on, how do you make a cheesecake, and it's going to give you 500 different recipes. You know, you want a French cheesecake, you want New York style, you know, whatever it is.
If you ever get out to Seattle area and you visit the Microsoft campus, they have a great Home of the Future exhibit that you can see. And one of the perennial, they change it every year because I'm going to get the years wrong, but the point of this exhibit is to show what home technology will look like in X number of years down the road, 5 or 7 or 10, I don't remember. But one of the ones, and so the demos change, but one of the ones they've had ever since the beginning, because it's just so cool, is you go into the kitchen, and the kitchen, it's a smart kitchen. So it knows all of the ingredients that are in the house. It knows all the dry goods you have. It knows the stuff that's in the refrigerator. When you bring a carton of milk, because there's an RFID tag on it, you go in and out with it, it can detect how full it is. It will know that you need to order more milk and have that on your list when you go to the store, and, you know, yada, yada, yada. But what you can do is you can say, look, I need to cook dinner. I want to base it around these things. And so you might have steak. You might have this kind of vegetable. You might have this, whatever this is. You put them on the counter, and then you ask the question, what can I make with this? And we'll come up with a list of recipes. Yeah. And it will all be based on not only things that you can make with that stuff, but it knows that you have the other recipes needed to make this happen, right? Smart. You know, and it's meant to be viable, right? It's not just like, oh, this will be cool someday in the, you know, future. The point of this is this has got to be, you know, something that's doable. It's coming. Like, this is real. It's not Star Trek, you know. Although actually, I'm sure all the stuff in Star Trek is coming. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at, as I'm talking, I'm looking at stuff from IE 5.0. I don't remember what year that was. It looks like it's running on Windows 2000. But Alta Vista was definitely still around 1999. Alta Vista,
Okay.
Hotbot,
Don't remember them.
InfoSeek,
Remember them.
Lycos,
Okay.
Yahoo, Excite, MSN Web Search, and Euroseek.
Those were the top.
Those were the ones that were built into Internet Explorer 5.
Wow. And now
Yeah,
we're down to what? We're down to Bing and Google.
Google, which was not even in the list.
This is 99.
99.
Yeah, 90. I mean, most people are using Yahoo and Alta Vista.
And search in that version of the browser was not there was no search bar. It was a kind of a pane that you would bring up. Actually, there was a search button on the toolbar, and then it would bring up this pane.
So you think pretty much everything is going to go to this automation type, you know, automated service where you just tell it what you want and it pulls up different ideas and different concepts.
We are not going to think of it as search.
Yeah.
Right. It's just like the notion that computing resources will be just sort of there. They'll be everywhere. That you'll be able to project things on a wall and not. You won't think about having a TV. It will just be a display. Everything will be a display. Everything will have, you know, this cloud-based computer power behind it. You know. Yeah, I just think it's going to be all.
I think it's going to be, you know, far sooner than 10 years from now. I think we're going to start seeing it. You know, I mean, we're seeing it now, but I think within the next 5 years, that's going to be the way that most people search. You're seeing it with Siri. You're seeing it. You're going to see it on Windows Phone. You're going to see it on Android, and I think that's how people are going to look things up.
Yep.
It's an interesting time. I say that every week, but it is. I want to remind everybody, if you miss any portion of the show, you could go to our website, gfknetwork.com, and catch the podcast. It's up within 24 hours. You could also subscribe on iTunes, on Zune, pretty much everywhere you can imagine. Paul's website, winsupersite.com. That's where I got the link. So if you guys want to get that link for Office, go to WinSuperSite. Don't go to Microsoft.
Well, actually, if you just want to download it like you did, it's really hard to find.
Is it?
They want what they want you to do is go get the Office
web.
365 version. Yeah, they make it really hard to find the other one. It is out there.
Yeah. I'm trying to see it. Did you do it that way, or you did the?
No, I did the other way. But if you read the top article on the site right now, is called Office 2013 Public Preview Old School MSI Installs.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it probably doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people. But if you look at that, the very first paragraph that says update. Anyone can get it. Click here, and that's the direct link to go get the old-fashioned installer.
Yeah, that's the one I did.
Yeah.
Go to winsuperside.com, get everything, all the information there about Windows, about Office, Windows Phone. Also, you can check Paul out every Thursday on Windows Weekly on the Twit Network, 2 p.m. East at twit.tv. And I think that's it, Paul. Anything else? Promoting anything? You're going to be appearing anywhere? Doing any autograph signings?
I'm going to be in New York for about an hour and 45 minutes tomorrow at lunchtime, but I have a meeting and then I have to head right home. So I don't do this as a snub for you.
I think Paul's just snubbing me.
I'm sorry.
I think that's what it is. Sorry.
I am going to bring the cooler weather with me, though.
I hope so, because I'm dying, and it's 90 degrees right now. 90 degrees in the studio. All right, guys, we'll see you all next week on What the Tech. Again, remember, you can subscribe at gfqnetwork.com if you miss any portion of the show, and send us your emails, guys. We appreciate it. Until then, take care and brush your chest hair. Brush your chest hair.